Gross Domestic Product, GDP. Definition: Gross domestic product, GDP, is a measure of the total monetary value of all finished goods and services produced within a country's borders over a specific period, typically 1 year or 1 quarter. It represents the economic activity of a country and is used to gauge the health of an economy. GDP can be understood as the sum of all goods and services produced, and it's usually expressed in monetary terms, making it easier to compare the size of economies across countries or track economic growth over time. Types of GDP. 1. Nominal GDP. This measures the value of goods and services at current market prices without adjusting for inflation. It can give a distorted view of growth if inflation is high. 2. Real GDP. This is adjusted for inflation, providing a more accurate measure of economic performance over time by showing the actual growth in output. Measurement of GDP. GDP can be measured in 3 different ways, but all yield the same number. 1. Production, output approach. It measures GDP as the sum of the value added at every stage of production within the economy. 2. Income approach. It sums up all incomes earned in the production of goods and services, wages, profits, rents, etc. For 3. Expenditure approach, the most common method which measures GDP as the sum of all expenditures on final goods and services within an economy. The expenditure approach is the most widely used, and GDP is calculated using the following formula: TGP equals C plus I times G plex by M, where dice C equals consumption, equals investment, G equals government spending, X equals net exports, exports minus imports. Components of GDP, K1, consumption, C. This is the total spending by households on goods and services, excluding new housing. It's usually the largest component of GDP in most economies, typically accounting for 60 to 70%. Examples: buying groceries, paying for healthcare, purchasing a new smartphone. Categories of consumption: durable goods, cars, appliances; non-durable goods, food, clothing; services, haircuts, education, rent. 2. Investment, I, refers to spending on capital goods that will be used for future production. It includes business investments in equipment, structures, and inventories, as well as residential construction, new housing. Examples: a company purchasing new machinery to increase production; a family building a new home; a firm increasing its stock of raw materials to prepare for future production. Investment is a volatile component of GDP, as businesses make investment decisions based on future economic expectations. Types of investment: non-residential, business investments in machinery, buildings, etc.; residential, new homes, apartments; changes in inventories, stocks of goods yet to be sold. 3. Government spending, G. This includes all government expenditures on final goods and services. It covers spending on public services, infrastructure, defense, and salaries of government employees. However, it does not include transfer payments such as pensions and unemployment benefits, as these do not represent payment for goods and services. Examples: building new highways or schools; defense spending on military equipment; salaries paid to public school teachers or police officers. Government spending is a significant part of GDP and can influence the economy through fiscal policy. 4. Net exports, XM. This is the difference between a country's exports and its imports. Exports add to a country's GDP because they represent goods and services produced domestically and sold abroad, while imports subtract from GDP since they represent spending on foreign goods. Examples: exports, a country selling cars, machinery, or software to foreign buyers. Imports, a country buying oil, electronics, or consumer goods from abroad. Net exports can be positive, trade surplus, or negative, trade deficit, depending on whether a country exports more than it imports. Formula: text net exports equal text exports x buys text imports. Illustrative example of GDP calculation. Consider the economy of a hypothetical country, Econland. In 1 year, consumption, C, households spend $800 billion on goods and services. Investment, I, businesses invest $300 billion in machinery and housing. Government spending, G, the government spends $400 billion on infrastructure and public services. Exports, X, the country gets $200 billion worth of goods. Imports, M, the country imports $150 billion worth of goods. The GDP is calculated as text GDP equals 800 plus 300 plus 400 plus 200 minus 150 equals 11650. Thus, Econland's GDP is $1.65 trillion. Please subscribe to this channel